Sometimes technology is good. Depends on the intention, you know. Right. Hi. I didn't want to be the first, but I'll give it a try. So we have so many subjects, but I think maybe the subject of the day is what happened yesterday in Glasgow.
I'll let the say.
And it's quite a misty context. We don't know exactly who perpetrated the crime and exactly who were the victims and stuff. But the main issue that is surfacing now, it's this of immigration, and it seems it was an asylum seeker from Sudan. I think now it's the moment to speak a bit about what may make the West a bit different, in the world. And I am an immigrant myself, so I can see things from both perspectives, I hope so. Coming from Eastern Europe and being used with a life under a communist dictatorship and also under capitalism, and then coming here with certain hopes that I will find better people, so to say, and a better mentality. I want to tell you sincerely, and I confess this to many other people, that I wasn't disappointed. Of course, in the beginning, I believed that every Scottish individual is a marvel of God. Everybody's good and honest. So I had to be confronted with the truth and, to have my experience. But I still think that is a matter of percentage, as I said before. And there is a better mentality and a certain feeling of the brotherhood of man in this country and, all over the Western world. But then why do immigrants choose to come to Western Europe and particularly to the UK? Of course, nobody leaves their homeland because they just want to have an experience, or very few people come to put themselves at the service of another nation, like missionaries, for example, or people in charities. But usually people come to find here something that they don't have there, they cannot benefit from in their own countries. And this can be a job, or a better job, or more money, or a better welfare system, or even a better treatment coming from their fellow men. Nobody comes here, or almost nobody, just for fun, and very many people have problems accommodating in another country. It's obvious that it's inconvenient to leave everything and to get adapted to a new system of life, and you have to build your life again, which is not easy for anybody. That's why some people come with their families and sometimes with entire communities, to build a new life here and to feel themselves more as at home. But as a country who is so friendly and open-minded to receive people from other nations, one should also consider the risks of doing that. And this pertains not to the people, as individuals, because there can be good or bad people in any place in this world, but it very much depends on the culture and on the mentality of their country of origin. And I can tell you that this differs very much further you go to the east, starting from this point to zero, the meridian zero. So here what you have, and I can acknowledge this as a Christian, but you don't necessarily have to be a Christian to see this, is a feeling that we are all equals. Even if you have a manager, there's not so much a distance between an authority and the common people in the street. So everything appears much more natural. It's easier to speak in public. It's easier to deal with authority. Nothing is so formal. And this is valid also in religion. You know, it's much more comfortable religion. I speak especially about the Protestant Christianity, but also the Catholic has got this nuance that authority is not so fixed and is not so imperative as in, Italy or Spain or other places. So if you go towards the east, these things change a lot, meaning everything is based on authority. When you deal with the public services, or when you deal, with a school environment, or even in the churches, everything has to obey and comply with the demands of authority. And people are molded this way, In a way, this was good for Eastern Europe to have such type of environment, and the Orthodox Christianity which is very ritualic and involves to report yourself to the priest as if it's really a representative of God. And once you acknowledge that a human being can be a representative of God, practically this mentality stays with you, and anybody else in society can be seen as a superhuman individual, something more than you. So it was, in a way, necessary for Eastern Europe to develop and to be conservative in this way, because they had to face the invasions coming from the east, the Ottoman Empire, the Tatars, which were they had this kind of mentality that the extremists still have today, that they have to rule all humanity by the sword, for their God. So this thing needed a strong opposition, and a unity of the people. And the unity was always around the church and, the emperor, the king or the leader. So that was the way it should be. But on the other hand, because of that, because of this very authoritarian system of, in society, the way people relate to each other, this made, the true brotherhood, the true communities of people not to be able to develop. There were some attempts, but they never succeed. Indeed, we had communism, but I suppose that many people here know what communism was, in fact, that it was brought, by the big bankers, and it was a social experiment, and it involved the destruction of the traditional values, as it does today also, like the church and the family and everything that pertains, to the way people normally, engage with each other. So it was a very destructive force, and it should really be a matter of meditation for us to understand why communism, which in fact it was practiced by the first disciples of Jesus, which meant that the full equality in a loving brotherly community, turned into a bloody class warfare, because that was the scheme. Because everything that is good in this world, every good idea, needs to be confiscated, and it can be confiscated if you have enough money and power to rule enough. And this is what we are seeing today also. We see this movement that appear to work for social justice, but in fact have a hidden agenda. Many people may be engaged in them not knowing what they are really doing, but the social chaos, the violence, the destruction, it's enough of a testimony for this hidden agenda. So now, if you have this type of society which is based on authority, unavoidably, and you make gods out of man, unavoidably you reach this level in which authority becomes a suppressor and an oppressor of people. So people have to be controlled and dominated in order to ensure your supremacy. Practically, with this, you manage to imprison people, at least mentally, if not physically. And what develops in people afterwards is a very weird thing that maybe some of you have heard about. It's the Stockholm syndrome. You get used. It happens in families also when you get abused. You get used so much with the abuse and with the humiliation and with the degradation that it becomes a natural way of being. It becomes the way you see yourself. You deserve this kind of treatment. But the way the abuser rules, it's always by tricking you and giving you some, regular advantages when you get the impression that this guy is not so good or this leader is not so good, he's not so bad. Because look, now he loves you, now he gave you certain advantages. Now we are waiting for new rules in matters of lockdowns and stuff, so we see things are not so bad. And you get used to that, and you understand that, yeah, maybe this is the way it had to be. We had to suffer a bit in order to deserve the price and to be free again and to be able to gather again and speak like human beings and relate, and meet with each other and so on. This is the image the abuser always tries to, enforce. At the limit, when you have such authorities that are unchallenged by the people, unavoidably, as we know, the absolute power corrupts absolute, unavoidably they become tyrants. They become either psychopaths or fanatics. So at this point, whatever you try to, as a human being, you try to complain about has absolutely no relevance for them. And I know we are speaking here about, scientific facts or legal facts, and I had in this country the occasion to have a case in which I put all legal and moral and scientific arguments I could bring, and it didn't matter. So this just shows you that when you get to this degree, when the leaders are really authoritarians and the people are really demoralized, it doesn't matter anymore. The quality of arguments is simply irrelevant. So we have to avoid this as much as possible. Now, speaking about these roots of brotherhood, I don't want to convert anybody, but I just want to tell you something. In any system of belief, any ideology, you will not be able, in my impression, to ever beat these commandments. Love your enemy. Do not judge. Forgive 7 times 77. These are the main, roots of what is supposed to be the true community of people. And you see that all these movements are not abiding to such thing. Even more, the hidden agenda involves the destruction of such values. Involves again, because we have forgotten the lessons of history, a violent race war or a class war, through which, the good ones, which are supposed to be the oppressed ones, would be the rulers of the other ones. It's not so simple, because, even poor people can be very mean. And in fact, the inferiority complex that people who are oppressed may develop may turn them into much worse tyrants than the ones who got used with a certain status in life. So we have to judge every person. I mean, that's my impression again. I'm just an immigrant, but we have to judge every person as, an individual. And I had this benefit of a doubt coming as a Romanian here. And I know that Romanians don't have a good name. And I acknowledge that, and I kind of agree with that. I've seen many things. But the fact that people were able to tell me, we don't judge you because you are Romanian, we just look at you as a person, this made all the difference. And I tell you, if I would get a better mentality in my country, I would go there tomorrow, because most of my friends and family are there. But this what you have here, even if it's from a distance, not involving close friendship, this makes all the difference. The fact that you can give jobs to people, you can treat people as your equals, and stuff. And majority of you are doing this. And indeed, it doesn't matter, you know, the color of the skin, and it doesn't matter even the education. But on the other side, it is always important to look to look at this thing. I mean, how that person is prepared for a communal life. What is their main principles? You know, they can integrate in your society or not, or they try to build enclaves, having another mentality, another culture, you know, another spirit that is different than this one of real brotherhood. And if you see that, you may imagine a body, you know, which is the whole community, which suddenly develops some tumors. These tumors have an independent life, and they try just to conquer and to develop, and finally to take over the whole organism, which was not what is supposed to happen. This is called a cultural, spiritual, and even racial genocide. So I think everybody should be aware of what is happening here, and the reply to all what is meant to divide us from any point of view should be the truth as it is written, spoken in love. I think that's the spirit that should prevail. And now, how do we manage to oppose whatever comes evil, you know, all over the place? For sure, from my experience as a very small and undeserving activist in Romania, is not by simply electing leaders and somehow. There is a whole movement based on leadership, even in the churches today. As if, you know, the main purpose in life is to become a leader of something. But this is the same, you know, Satan appearing as an angel of light, the same temptation of power. The true leader is not an authoritative voice, you know, that we see such voices everywhere today that shows you how to think and how to behave and so on, because you don't have any discernment and any intellect to think for yourself. But is a guide that, you know, does his service or her service in humility and love. This is the true leader that we should expect, not people that tell us whatever we have to do, you know, when we have to go to the toilet or how many times to wash our hands and so on. So when we try to oppose this system that is based on leadership and authority and control, we have to show something else, in my impression. We have to show that we really cherish each other as equals, that this is the true mentality, and that we can oppose these evil things in a non-violent manner. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, whatever you oppose in the exterior world, you have to win in yourself first. You cannot win the war against evil being a mean person and a psychopath or a narcissist. Because sooner or later, you will unveil this around you. And I've seen this again and again in social movements in Romania. And that's why they all fall apart. You cannot do this. So that was my idea for today. Thank you very much. Bless you all.